Good morning. This is Dr. McDaniel at GYN Corner. Thank you for joining me. Please check out the YouTube channel also. That's called GYN Corner. Like, subscribe, and comment. And if you have questions or ideas for topics, please send me a message with those questions or ideas for topics, or place it on the YouTube channel. Sorry. Yesterday I spoke on fish consumption for women, obviously because I'm a gynecologist. Everyone's a woman for me, and especially for pregnant women and breastfeeding women. So you can check out yesterday's presentation. I'll give a quick recap. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. I'm trying to send a message to the front desk because I see we have some patients ready to get started, but I'm going to finish this presentation first. Okay, good. Yesterday I have more detail, I'm sure, but I'll give a quick recap today. And then I just wanted to list some of the things on this reference chart, some of the fish categories that are good to consume on a regular basis. So I know most people are aware that Americans, with respect to the rest of the world, we don't eat enough fish. We don't have enough fish that's considered part of a healthy, nutritious diet compared to the rest of the world. Most Americans only eat fish or any seafood once to twice a month. And ideally, we should have seafood, especially fish, 2 to 3 times a week. So it should be ideally 4 to 6 times higher than what it actually is. And then the fish that most Americans eat is highly processed and fried. So it'll be a fish fillet at a fast food restaurant, or fish sticks from the grocery store, and those aren't going to be the most nutritious specimens of seafood intake. So we're not getting the nutrients that we should get from the sea. Now, several years ago, the warnings were, I believe it was probably about 15 years ago, the warnings were placed throughout the media and the health industry that a lot of the fish that we were consuming is highly contaminated with mercury. Everyone knows mercury is a poison, and it can cause brain damage and neurologic damage. I believe that's where the expression Mad Hatters, Mad as a Hatter, came from, because the hat makers dealt with mercury. I believe it was mercury. Could have been lead. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it, but I just remember the expression is Mad as a Hatter. And I think it was mercury that they were working with, because mercury causes brain damage. Especially if you're pregnant, you don't want high levels of mercury, because you can get the developing fetus, or the baby can have neurologic damage and poor brain development, poor eye vision development, everything. So it's very serious. So about 15 years ago or so, the warnings came out that our seafood is high in mercury, and we should really limit the intake of fish and shellfish that we're getting. So of course, as most people do, everyone went all the way retard and just stopped eating fish altogether, which is not good. Earlier this year in January, the U.S. Department, the U.S. FDA, U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and the Environmental Protection Agency released recommendations or charts to give guidance and support and information for increasing our seafood intake. That was released in January, and it was updated this month, earlier July. So I'm sure if you would like the details on that, you can go to the Environmental Protection Agency or the U.S. Food and Drug Agency and just input in your search seafood recommendations or fish recommendations. You'll see the reference guide or the chart. It's a nice chart because it delineates, they call it the best fish, good fish, and the fish to avoid. So it's very clear and easy. Now, with respect to fish intake, that's one of the girls, so I'm telling her, busy doing a presentation, she'll come back later. With respect to fish intake, the value or the importance of fish is that we can get a lot of nutrients that we don't naturally get in the environment. A big one is vitamin D. Most people only get vitamin D from sun exposure, and if you're living in the north, you're not going to get much sun exposure half the year. I mean, this is July, and here in the tri-state area, we've had storms and rain all weekend, so it's been very cloudy and overcast. It's nice today. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's nice today. But we're only going to get half the year sun exposure we need for vitamin D, and even in the spring and summer, it's variable how much sun exposure we're getting for vitamin D. And I think most people, and I will do a presentation on the benefits of vitamin D, but I think most people know vitamin D is good for helping with healthy bones, helps support the immune system, and a lot of the research is saying that it helps decrease the seasonal affective disorder, or the SAD, during the fall winter months. So it's very important. And then another major source, nutritional source from fish, is omega-3 fatty acids, and the most important two are the DHA. I always have to look at this one. Oh yeah, the docosahexaenoic acid, and the EPA, which is the eicosapentaenoic acid. Those are the most important for brain development, neurologic development, vision, eye development, because the eye is part of the neurologic system. So those are very important. And it also looks like, based on a lot of the recent studies, that the fish intake, so selenium, zinc, iodine, essential omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and it's a really healthy source of protein. In addition to all of that, and protein, of course, is the building blocks for our entire body, that the fish intake is getting the actual fish is much more efficient than trying to take the supplements. Of course, if you can't eat fish at all, or if you're allergic to fish, then it's not an option, so supplements are better than nothing. But the research is saying that the supplements do not provide the same punch as just eating the fish will. Now, I'm going to look at this chart here because their chart delineated the fish. If you think about, basically what they're recommending is that we all adults have 8 ounces of fish. And I think most people, if you've ever done a Weight Watchers in the past, you know that the palm of your hand, the palm and the thickness of your hand is 1 serving size of fish or meat. That's usually about 2 ounces. So you should have 8 ounces ideally a week. So you could just break that up into 2 to 3 times a week to have fish, and 1 to 2 servings, or 1 to 2 servings every 2 to 3 days of seafood or fish is recommended. I'm going to look at this chart here for what they listed as the best fish to eat. In my mind, the best fish to eat are essentially the fish that taste the best, or the seafood that tastes the best, and the seafood that I'm naturally drawn to and that's easy to obtain. So they actually listed 36 types of seafood as the best fish to intake, and a few of them are the most common ones. Salmon, light tuna, so not the albacore, the dark tuna, but light tuna, shrimp, clams, crab, cod. Cod is awesome. Of course, pubfish is the breaded cod, and for a while there, cod was difficult to obtain, but for the last year or so, it's been fairly easy to obtain now. And tilapia. So those are the most common. Salmon, shrimp, crab, clam, sole is another one, tilapia, pollock. A lot of people substitute pollock for cod, and the light tuna. So they have a list of 36 seafood options. Those are kind of the most common ones that most people are going to eat. Salmon is really, really good because it's high in fat, which is good fat, omega-3 fatty acids, and protein. And then on the good list, they have 19 fish on the good list. Kind of the most popular ones there for me are, of course, it's hard to see this now. Snapper, striped bass, halibut, trout, and monkfish. I've never had monkfish. It looks pretty wonky to me. It looks like a monster, but apparently monkfish tastes really good. Actually, I think I have had it once. I had it once at a restaurant years ago. Nothing special about it, but it's good for you. It's on the good list. It's not on the best list, but it's on the good list. And then these are all in terms of healthy fats, omega-3 fatty acids, nutritional source, and low in mercury. The ones to avoid, they have 7 fish on the avoidance list, and these are the ones that just don't have the same punch for nutrition, and they have higher mercury levels. So on the best list, you can eat the fish on that list 3 times a week. On the good list, they're saying 2 times a week, and on the avoidance, once a week without any other fish intake for the whole rest of the week. A couple of the ones on that were marlin, shark, swordfish. I mean, most people aren't going to eat shark, swordfish, and marlin anyways throughout the week, so that's kind of easy to avoid those ones. They're low in fat, they're low in omega-3 fatty acids, and they have higher mercury content, so they're not super tasty, and they're kind of not worth spending your whole fish or seafood allowance for the week on that fish. But if you're feeling exotic and adventurous, I guess those are the ones to try, the ones on the avoidance list. So I know I just kind of briefly ran through that list, but it's worth looking at. It's the Environmental Protection Agency. They updated it in July, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration did the initial recommendation around January for encouraging and recommending fish consumption, seafood, throughout the week, not just once or twice a month, 2 to 3 times a week, and especially if you're pregnant or going to be pregnant, to really increase the nutritional value of fish in your diet and to make it a habit, because obviously once you have the children, if it's not a habit, then they're not going to get into the habit of eating fish regularly either. But it's a good habit to get into. It's good for you. It's tasty. When I have fish, I usually will sear it. I tend to lean towards a little bit. I'm not all the way. I used to be all the way ketogenic diet. A few years ago, I was really hardcore on the ketogenic. Now I'm just I've gone backwards. I'm just kind of a little ketogenic. I'll still have my coffee with full cream and coconut oil sometimes. But when I cook my fish, I use a little bacon grease because it's a healthy animal fat, and I sear it in I have a cast iron skillet. So I sear mine with a little bacon grease and a cast iron skillet, and if I don't do that, then I'll bake it. Like salmon, I don't sear salmon. Tilapia, I'll sear. Other fish, I'll sear, but salmon, I'll bake. And if I bake the salmon, I put it in the oven with bacon grease on the fish, along with the orange Goya seasoning and Kerrygold butter. Wrap that up and I'll bake it. So it's delicious. Kids like it whenever I cook it. They especially like the seared in the cast iron skillet with the bacon grease. So I hope that's been helpful. This is Dr. McDaniel at GYN Corner. Please check out the YouTube channel, and then our website for the office is midtowngyn.com. Have a great rest of the day. I'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, sliding into the weekend. Take care, and it's nice weather here, so I hope everyone is enjoying the summer weather. It'll be fall before we know it. Bye.